Good afternoon and welcome to LinkedIn Live. I'm Steve Van Dinter, a member of the communications team here at Verizon. The goal of our chat today is to talk all things sales, and I can't wait to introduce you to, in a moment, to one of our rock stars who's going to share with you some of her tips and tricks to success and then take your questions. Speaking of questions, if you have one, feel free to drop it into the chat and we'll make sure to save some time later to get those over to her. Also, a little context here. This series is one of a number of LinkedIn Lives where we bring you closer to Verizon subject matter experts who share their best practices to help you grow and develop. And now it is my honor to introduce you to today's guest, Jennifer Arocho, Consumer Sales Director for the Northeast Market. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon. I'm so excited for my LinkedIn Live debut. And as Steve mentioned, we'll be discussing all things sales. I'll talk to you guys about how I uncovered my sales potential and some tips you can use the next time you have to sell. You see, sales is something that every single one of us has to do. Maybe you've had to sell yourself in a job interview, or maybe you've had to sell your ideas in a meeting, or you physically sell products and services. This segment is for everyone, and my hope is that we have a little fun, you pick up some tips, and hopefully you close your next sale. Steve had mentioned, I'm really excited to be answering your questions, so please make sure you put them in the chat pod, and we'll get started on those shortly. Before we get started, I think it's great to give you a little background about me. So as Steve had mentioned, I'm Jennifer Arocho, Consumer Sales Director. I started with Verizon a little over 11 years ago as a frontline sales representative in our stores. I climbed through the retail ranks up through leadership and ultimately obtained up to the director role. Today, I support our retail and our indirect stores, and I'm having a blast. Now, I think it's important to talk about how I even got into a career in sales, because I didn't always see my sales potential, nor did I think that sales was something that I was going to be good at. So I've had a really long and successful career, but I want to go back to where it all started for me. And it started out in high school. So I had the coolest first job ever. I worked on the TV crew in my high school, and it was great, awesome learning experience, but it didn't really pay well, and I needed something to do on the weekends. So I went to work at the auto parts store, and when I first took on the job, I thought, it's not really glamorous, and I know I'm gonna go home super greasy, but I'm excited to learn, and I didn't know it at the time then, but I would come to meet my inspiration and the best salesperson that I would have ever known, and that's my mom. Yes, I worked at the auto parts store with my mom, and to most teenagers, that doesn't sound super thrilling, but I saw the biggest perk of all. I could save on gas money by catching rides to work with my mom. So it was awesome, it was a great learning experience, but if I'm honest, I was super intimidated in the beginning. I didn't want to disappoint my mom, and the woman who used to make me dinner and took care of me as I grew up turned into a completely different person when we were working at the store together. I was in awe of this woman. I saw the way that she interacted with customers. She typically had a line of customers waiting for her and wanted to interact with just her. She was super professional. She was knowledgeable about the products and services. And I was just enamored with her ability, and I wanted to be just like her. I saw how personable she was, so I emulated those things, and I loved to talk to people. So I thought, maybe I'm good at sales. But there was one thing that she had that I didn't, and that was the confidence to be a good salesperson. So that's my first tip to you all. You want to make sure that when you're going in to pitch any sale, you deliver it with confidence. People like to buy from people who believe in themselves and the products that they're selling. Now, you don't grow confidence overnight. You have to understand why you might lack confidence and then be intentional about the actions you take to address the why behind a lack of confidence. So for me back then, I knew nothing about the products that I was selling. What's a starter or an alternator? I had to learn all of those things. So I made it a point to do some extra research on cars. I spent time observing my mom in her environment, learning how she was positioning products to customers. And slowly but surely, I became an expert on what I was selling, and that boosted my confidence. When you're the expert in what you're selling, your confidence will come naturally. You just speak to the facts, and you practice positioning with your customers. Now, it's also important to note that you can have all of the confidence in the world and the sale still might not close. So maybe you went into a meeting and you felt really good about your presentation, and the presentation went the exact opposite way of how you wanted it to go. Or you had the perfect solution for a customer to their needs, and they said, I'll think about it. I know there's a lot of people in the audience that know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's hard not to let those moments deflate you. So when I think back about when I first started with Verizon as a sales rep, I learned that you get a lot more no's in sales than you do yeses. You've got to be comfortable with being told no and not let that stop you from trying to sell on the next sale. But in the beginning, I used to let the no's get to me. I used to think, maybe I'm just not good at sales and this isn't for me. I started worrying that I wouldn't hit my sales targets, and I started putting a lot of pressure on myself. If you're just starting out in sales, you probably have some of these sentiments, so keep the pace going for yourself and keep going on. So what I did back then, I started working and spending some time with some of the best and most experienced sales reps at Verizon. And I found that even the best sales reps get told no. I started to realize that in sales, you're gonna have ups and downs. But if you refine your sales techniques, you'll get better, you'll sell more, and it does get easier. So I started to go down a path of thinking about what do the best sales reps do and find actions that I could take to improve my sales techniques. If I wanted to sell more, I had to pitch more. If there were new products, I needed to be expert in those new products more quickly. If there wasn't a customer in front of me, I needed to spend additional time practicing and preparing so when there was a customer in front of me, I'd be ready to sell. And most importantly, I had to anticipate the no's and get smoother with overcoming my objections. But by refining my craft, my pitch, my communication skills, I became a better salesperson, and I was able to influence more people with my ideas. I felt more confident in my sales ability. So I want you in the audience to think about the last no that you got. Maybe it was a no to a sale, or you got turned down in a job interview, or your idea wasn't the one that was chosen to move forward on a project. Think about what did you learn from that experience? And more importantly, what did you do after that to make the next sale better? All right, so I want to talk about two things that I think are the most important in sales, and that's listening and being a good listener and being able to tell a good story. Every good salesperson knows that everything that a customer says can help you close the deal. If you listen intently, you build better rapport, and you pick up on the clues to the solutions that your customers or that you could position to your customers. The same is true if you're thinking about stakeholdering. So you're trying to find stakeholders for a job or maybe a sign off on a project. Amazing things really happen when you declare your ambition for a job or a project with someone, and those folks will be willing to support you. But if you ask great questions to those folks and you listen to what they're telling you, you can apply that to whatever you're working on, and you also get the answers to the test. So listen very intently. I also think it's important to pay attention to the nonverbal cues that you get from your customers or from those folks that you're selling to. When you think about making good eye contact, you want to make sure that in a sale, you have open body language to your customers. And then especially in this virtual environment, in this hybrid situation that we've got going on now, you want to be very mindful of the room and what is happening in the room, especially in meetings and interviews. Reading the room becomes so important so you can find the right timing to land your point and your pitch and your idea. If you pay great attention to your customers or those that you're supporting when they're talking, you've got strong body language, they're going to be more likely to listen to your pitch. And that brings us into storytelling. When you go in for the pitch, you have to sell it like a story. People want to imagine their life with what you're positioning to them. Sharing personal stories allows the customer and folks to relate to what you're positioning. Chances are, if you're going in for a sale by saying, hey, do you want a smartwatch? The customer's probably going to give you a yes or a no, but if they don't find a compelling reason to buy that smartwatch, the answer is going to be a hard no. But if you discover things and ask questions and listen to your customer's need, you may have a stronger pitch. So for example, Suppose you've uncovered that your customer is somebody who is an avid runner. A stronger pitch might sound like, I love to run too. Not only does my Apple Watch or my watch help support me by listening to music, but I also feel confident that I'm not gonna miss any important calls when I'm on the road or when I'm running on the road. And also, I can track my fitness progress very easily. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in learning more about? The customer can probably relate to those experiences in being an avid runner, and the pitch is a lot stronger. So make sure you go in with storytelling. Now, we could spend days talking about storytelling. If you're interested in improving your storytelling skills, I highly recommend that you tune in to a previous segment that we had right here on LinkedIn Live, where Pete Casale brought everyone through storytelling techniques, the power of your story, and how to strengthen your message. Now, I've been talking for a little bit now, and I'm really eager to get to your questions. Steve, are you getting any questions from the audience?
I am, but first I gotta say, you sold me on the smartwatch, you sold me on the Bluetooth. I love the LTE connectivity, I love to run, and I love to be completely disconnected from having to carry that bulky phone. So I'm in on what you're selling.
Awesome.
All right, so I do have a number of questions coming in from folks. First one, how do you make your customers stick, or how do you keep them as a customer after a sale's made? What's the most important things?
I think it's really important to connect with the customer, find some type of way to build rapport with them, whether you're using and sharing contact information so they can follow back up with you. But I also think as a true salesperson, you know that sales come from additional referrals. So strengthening that bond with that customer could also lead to building relationships with their extended family, their loved ones, so you can get some future sales.
All right. So an interesting one here about energy. All of us, you only have a certain amount of energy, right, that you can expend. Do you ever cut your losses when you feel your pitch is not going well, or do you always try to play it out because maybe you're reading the room wrong?
Yeah, I think that it's important to, know yourself and know where you're getting your intuition from. After you've done sales for a little bit, you can kind of understand and pick up where a customer's coming with. But you have to ask open-ended questions and follow up. If the customer's closing off, and typically the body language is a really good indicator, then you may want to slow down on your pitch and follow back up. And maybe that's an opportunity for you to follow back up after the fact, or phone them a couple days later and see how they're feeling about that. But I also think it's important for you to understand, if you've helped multiple customers, there's typically a vibe that you get. And then once you understand that a bit better, you can ask better questions to see how the customer is feeling.
All right, another confidence-related question. I feel like we're going to get a lot of these, but for people who are a bit more introverted, what are baby steps that they can take to start to build that confidence?
Great question. I think something simple is remembering to use names very frequently in your sales interactions. You start to realize that you build a better connection with your customer when you use their names, and that's a simple step, and it may not be super intimidating to try. So try that in your daily life. You can even try that with your loved ones, just repeating names so you can build some rapport, and the connection comes a little bit smoother. I also think it's important to think about, how do you break the ice? Sometimes breaking the ice is talking a little bit about yourself, and that can be challenging, but if you find common topics that are very easy to pick up, like, hey, the weather, how are folks doing during the storm, or those small conversation starters that may be less intimidating to go into the sale, it helps folks out to break the ice.
You mentioned, and kind of reading between the lines there, authenticity as you're selling. How do you maintain authenticity? Obviously, in the back of your heads, you want to make the sale, but you also want to make an authentic connection with the customer.
Yeah, I think, when you think about going in for a sale, we want to make sure that the customer is really excited about the products that they're selling. So if you're excited about what it is that you're positioning, it's easy for the customer to relate to your excitement and helping the customer find that solution meets their lifestyle and their lifestyle needs. So I think it's as simple as that. You want to make sure that the product is relatable to them, that if you're excited about it, they'll be excited about it. And then I think it's also important to check for understanding for the customer. Sometimes somebody may get an idea in mind and they're thinking the sales solution is great, but does it quite meet their lifestyle and their lifestyle needs, or thinking of something a bit different? So you want to check for understanding to make sure that you can seal the deal and everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Good deal. I want to go back to one of the things you said at the earlier part of the presentation about the time that you went to work with your mom. Such an inspirational time. I love how you saw her from a different perspective. You weren't familiar at the time, and you said so yourself, with selling these types of auto parts and things like that. How did you get familiar? How did you hone what you did there, and how did you leverage that then to your success today?
Yeah, so it's working at an auto parts store is a lot of fun because it's not just selling parts. You also have to like learn how to install wiper blades and test a starter and alternator in a car, which is really intimidating if you've never done anything like that before. So what I did was I had a hands-on approach. I needed to understand where were the products. I would literally go down every aisle in the store and say, what is this thing? What is a rotor? You know, there's a brake rotor and there's a rotor that goes like in a cap rotor. I don't want to go too down the techie path, but you had to understand and do some research. I also used like the catalog and the systems that we had there to better understand what it was that we were selling. And I really spent a lot of time with the experts. You know, my mom was certainly one of them. We also had some other folks on our team. And I would just listen to how they were positioning things, or I would listen to their technical experience and expertise on the products. That was certainly a learning journey. And then the biggest one is we actually have some commercial departments where you're selling to small businesses. Usually you're selling products in bulk. So you kind of understand, all right, this customer ordered this brakes and rotors. Well, that's probably a combo deal. They work together in the car. So I probably should understand that those two things go together and I can sell those things and sell more. So not to go down the crazy path of car sales and auto parts sales, but that was a bit of an experience and some things that I did.
Great. I think we struck a nerve with the car parts thing because I did get another question in here along those lines, which was, in your opinion, what was the hardest car part to sell?
Oh, I don't know that it was car parts to sell versus like we had these challenges where like if you had these, you know, I don't know, fuel injector cleaners on sale, you wanted to try and get as many of those out the door. And so how do you pitch it to customers so you're getting every single one out and getting really creative? I think that for the most part, a lot of products sell for themselves, but it's those extra enhancements. So we also used to sell things like, you know, for brake pads and rotors, you need a, you know, brake pad lubricant in between. Those things were really hard to sell because most people are saying, I don't need any of that. So that's a good response. That's really hard to answer.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I know nothing about these, so I'm fascinated.
Okay,
by
cool.
This.
We're gonna do
Car
skill drill
parts 101.
afterwards, and you know we'll talk about cell phones, and then we'll talk about auto parts.
Love it. All right, next question here. I will say this is more or less about your mindset as you're selling, but how do you read your potential customer's mind about the competition? And if they've come in with some bias, how do you kind of approach that as well?
Yeah, I think it's important for us at Verizon. We typically have the ability to help our customers and support and look at their previous times that they've been in the location. So you have a pretty good idea of how long they've been here. I think something simple as addressing how long a customer's been with Verizon is something that is a best practice in our stores that helps us better understand where our customer would be going. When it comes to competition, I think it's important to stay really firm and know what's going out there. What promotions they have out there. That way you can better help a customer understand why our promotions or our services are better. So that would be my response. You really want to make sure that you're asking those questions ahead of time, doing a nice analysis of the accounts. And sometimes the customers will directly tell us. It's usually the customers that it's not coming out that you want to make sure that you're going above and beyond and really recognizing years of service and things of that nature.
Good deal. All right, so kind of along those lines, but what is something you would tell Verizon sales team members or even customer-facing V-teamers that they could say to customers that helps differentiate Verizon from the many competitors that we've got in the industry today?
Yeah, it's 5G, it's our amazing network, it's our ability to continue to stand out and invest and to put our network first. You know, when you think about what's going on right now, we've got the storms going down, Hurricane Ida, we've got all these other things that are going on. Our network always stands up. And so really proud of working for this organization and all that we do to make sure that our customers are always up and running. You know, I couldn't imagine trying to be on the other end of a phone call right now and it not working. So that's the #1 differentiator and something that our teams can stay very strong on out there in the fields.
All right, you mentioned all sorts of the no's you get. How do you maintain your confidence level after repeatedly getting no, no, no?
That's really, really, really tricky. Sometimes it means that you got to take the no and kind of run with it. I think that you've got to study why the no. Sometimes it's going to be because of something that you could have done differently. Sometimes it's going to be because, you know, you have a string of customers that it may be a no for. You've got to, you know, focus on the controllables, and that's what you can do to refine your pitch and how do you overcome it. When it comes to keeping your composure, you've just got to make sure that you're smiling through it all. You've got to understand that you're on the customer's team, And if they decide to buy today, that's great. If they decide to buy tomorrow, that's okay. You still have to make sure that they feel as good about why they came into the store, this time around.
Absolutely. Along those lines, I feel like I'm doing some sort of job interview with you here, though, but tell me about a time that you had your most memorable no, and how did you move past it?
Ooh, okay. Most memorable no. I was a GM in our South Jersey stores, and I remember trying to sell One Talk. It was when we first started selling One Talk for a small business solution, and I could not get this product down at all. And before I was gonna ask my team to do it, I needed to understand it myself. We worked at a mall at the time, and so I went to the small business owners in the mall that I had great relationships with, and I tried to pitch it. And I got probably like 20 no's until I got to the last person, and we ended up closing that sale, which was great. But there was a hard 20 no's back to back, and I had to go really hard on those sales in order to get the deal over for that first one. But I built a lot of confidence for myself that day, and I was better able to help my team with positioning that product to our customers.
Important to learn from those, right? At that point in time. All right. So speaking of that, you've got some Verizon customers, or some customers that are going to be tech savvy. You've got others that have no clue how to, even dial their phone. So, in your opinion, what's the best practice to sell these new technologies and the benefits of them to some of these folks who it may not come as second nature to them?
Great question. I think it's important to simplify it. When you talk about the need, the steps to going down the path of how they use it in their daily lives is a bit of a learning curve. But if they can see that their life is going to be better because of the product, their lifestyle is going to be better because of the product, then it's important for them to go through. We had mentioned the Apple Watch previously. You would definitely sell it. But we also have maybe some folks that are averse to tech. Well, there's some great safety features on a watch, and if you can sell the idea of safety to a customer, then getting to, from point A to point B, that step in between, that A and a half, so to speak, it becomes easy because we have other solutions out there. We've got our tech coach products. You also have friends and family members that may be able to assist them in that transition. But if you stick to the need, in that case specifically, something like safety, that becomes easy, and you work backwards to make sure that they feel good about the steps that they would take to learn the product.
So you've done, no doubt in your career, a number of hires. What types of non-sales people would you say, or what types of skills are needed to end up being great salespeople?
Awesome. I love when folks have just great infectious energy, are confident in themselves, and really are about experiences and wanting to deliver great experiences to customers. Again, I was in the auto parts industry. The two things that I had going for me is I like to talk to people, and I was really personable. I learned how to sell. I learned about the products. So those are a couple pieces that I look for in talent that's interested in coming on board.
So you don't necessarily have to have a prior experience. You have to have the willingness, it sounds like, and the confidence in yourself.
Yeah, and the benefit of working at Verizon is, think about not just frontline employees. I mean, I've had a career in sales, but the skills that you learn from a sales job makes you relevant throughout our business, and we value those things. As a frontline employee, you may learn negotiation tactics. Well, that's helpful for us in other parts of the business. So that's also important for our frontline teams to think about if they're, not in sales, or if you're thinking about switching a career to sales. You don't have to be directly a sales individual with experience in order to, for us to see that those skills could be learned and that are valuable and transferable for other positions.
You bet. All right, so if I'm in sales right now, and it could be Verizon, it could be outside the organization, what's the one thing, if I wanted to get better at my job, that I could focus on that you suggest as the best ROI?
Storytelling. We talked about it. Definitely check out Pete Casal's last LinkedIn. I think it's really important to be able to position these products, especially because we have a wide range of products and services at Verizon. So you want to make sure that you are well versed in each of those products, but then able to talk about those stories with each of our customers, or be able to relate to those experiences or those products with each of our customers based off of their lifestyle. So storytelling for sure.
Awesome. We're getting close to the end, so if you do have a question, please get it in now. We'll try to get it in front of Jennifer here. But speaking of storytelling, what sorts of stories do you think resonates the most when it comes to selling?
I think that you've got to have personal stories that really pull on the heartstrings. We talked about the safety and the watch. Those are things that people relate to. Phone calls, being able to relate to, what it's like when your phone is dead and you need to be able to make a phone call, so those car chargers, those things that are out there. I think it's about showing folks that the products aren't just what's packaged physically, but really how that makes for a better lifestyle. I think about in the morning when I get up, I've got a wireless charging pad. All my devices are charged up on there, but if that charging pad wasn't there, I don't know how my devices would get charged. So if I'm thinking about the experience of just waking up and my devices are charged, how it gets done I don't necessarily care about, but just that idea and that experience, picking up, making it simple is really, really important to me as a consumer.
How many years did it take you to feel like you really had a handle on this?
Oh man, I think that we're always learning. And those that are truly, truly good salespeople are constantly learning and have to refine their skills. So I'd say after like the first year at Verizon, where I felt like I was truly, truly learning sales techniques and better enhancing my sales skills, I felt like I had a really good idea of how to sell to consumers. But then keep in mind, my leadership career kind of started, and then the way that you sell to our employees might be slightly different. But you can use some of those transferable skills of selling with customers with being a leader to employees.
So I don't want to have you pick from your favorite child here, but do you have a favorite product that you love selling to customers? Because maybe you're so passionate about it, or it's easy.
Yeah, I love wireless charging products. I have one in every single room of my house. I also have a speaker and a smart speaker in every single room of my house because I love to be able to sing as I'm cleaning the house in every single room. It's a lot of fun. And then, your phones, I have 2 phones. They need to be charged at all points in time. So I love having the ability to just drop a phone down and let that get charged up.
All right, we're getting this question. I'm going to throw it out there. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but
okay.
Your team is huge, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to shout out any specific salespeople or stores who you think have just been killing it recently?
Oh man, that's a great question. I love my entire CPN territory, so I want to give everybody a shout out. And I'm really proud of all the work that you guys are doing. I thank you for what you do every single day. I know it's not easy, but you guys are the heartbeat of this company. So thank you, CPN, and all of our frontline teams out there.
All right, and unfortunately, we are butting up against time here. So one more question, which is, what is something you wish people outside of sales understood about what you do?
You've got to show kindness and grace. I think everybody at the end of the day is a human being. And so, being in the sales industry, you just want to get to know people better and position solutions to them. So I think at times, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see that, these folks could be your loved ones. They could be, your neighbor, and you want to make sure that you're treating them with the kindness, because in our stores, we also want to treat our customers with kindness as well.
All right, I do want to make sure that you've got time here too. So any last thoughts before we go?
Yeah, so just in recap, I want to make sure that you guys are left with a few things. Sales, again, is something that each of you has the capability to do, and you have to do. So dedicate time to get better. You've got a wide range of networks and resources, so take the time to get better and reach out for help. Have fun along the way and ask questions as you go. So remember to be confident, consistently refine your techniques. You can't go wrong with improving your listening and storytelling skills, and go out there and close that deal.
All right, I think we've got 2 minutes here, so I do want to get one more question that Heather just got in.
All right,
Heather, I got you back here. When dealing with customers who typically like in-person interaction with sales team members, but are now experiencing hesitancy during the pandemic, what can V-teamers do to keep those customers engaged while still being, of course, considerate of their concerns?
Yeah, I think you've just got to show grace. Everybody's got personal decisions and thoughts, and we've got to respect those things. But if you show each other kindness, you show each other grace, then I think it's a lot easier to break those lines of communication down and get to the point where you can service our customer, and our customer can get some value out of interacting with you.
Jenny, you blew my mind over the last 30 minutes. I really appreciate it. This was so great. I learned so much, and I hope you, the viewers, did as well. So thank you again for joining us, and thank everybody for joining us today. Before you go, make sure you go ahead and follow the Inside Verizon LinkedIn page so you can catch all of our future episodes and tons of other great content. You heard the shout out for Pete Cassell, one of my colleagues, so I'm going to get probably some ribbing a little bit later on here, but his storytelling session was great, so do check that out. Diana Alviar had a really great session on getting your presence up to speed on camera, so check that out. Lots of great resources. Again, Verizon's Inside Verizon LinkedIn page. And folks, have a great rest of your day. Take care.